right, that's it. All right, today it is Monday, August the 21st. It is your Borough Manager, Brad Flynn, and I'd like to talk to you all about the community survey that we did back in June involving the police department, the police services study. The police services... The police survey. The police services survey. The police service survey. The police survey. Back in June of this year, we did a police survey. We had 201 respondents. We have a population here in the borough, about 2,808 people. So we had a 7.2% response rate. Typically on surveys, you get about 6 to 10% of the overall population. You're doing pretty good. So we kind of like what we saw there. We did not do any kind of IP analytics to see where people were responding from. We could have, we didn't. We just took the 201 as the number of respondents for analytics purposes. So I want to go through the survey with everybody today, full transparency, to show everyone out there what it is that we look for when we're doing surveys and how the numbers work. And I actually had to do this myself as a consumer, as a member of the public myself, to kind of see what surveyors, professional surveyors, look for in a survey and how they analyze some of this information and synthesize it and everything else. So if you remember, a couple of months ago, we put the raw data out on both surveys, the police survey, but also the Park and Rec survey, just so you had that. And if anyone was reading that data, you may have questions of your own. There were certainly questions here at the borough that we had to bring to the attention of the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, just so they were aware with some of the survey questions and the results themselves. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through just some highlights from the survey and to show you what it is that we found in some patterns. What I want folks to realize is that surveys are great tools. We're doing a complete police study. And one of the metrics in that study is, of course, a public survey. So if anybody says, it's lip service, or just, that's not the case. Whether it's our community, whether it's other surveys that you may see, you're using these surveys to gauge temperature, but also to see what the experiences are from those members of the public with a particular thing. In this case, it's police services. So we want to hear from you. It's not lip service, but you also have to understand that it's like with anything else, it's data, and data has to be looked at, evaluated, and it's part of a whole. So while it's about looking at your experiences and helping us plan for the future of police services, it's also, I want folks to know that surveys are not the gospel. So when we say or have a meeting and everyone takes to the sky with the survey, then just do it, we have to understand a few things. Number one, this was not a ballot question, right? So we have well over 1,000 registered voters here in the borough of Bath and a population of 2,800, right? Chunk of the community, I'll say, did not respond to this survey. When you only have about 10%, under 10% of the population, we still have a large segment of the voter population that apparently didn't take this survey for whatever reasons. And anecdotally, I'll tell you that some folks didn't know about this, even though we tried to put this out a couple different ways, Facebook in particular, but a lot of people don't have Facebook. I don't think it was published in the newspaper, but we had it out as best that we could at public meetings, and we tried to get the best response that we could, short of going around door to door asking for everybody to complete the survey. So with that information in mind, let's go through some of the questions that I wanted to highlight for everyone, and just to see what we're seeing and why you treat surveys as a tool, as a component. It's not to be disqualified. And I will also say, I am not a survey expert. I don't develop surveys. I helped with this one. I don't do all the numbers games behind it. I don't do all the analytics behind it. That's not my expertise. There are professional survey people, pollers that do this kind of stuff, and it's a whole discipline unto itself. All right, with all of that said, let's go to question one. We simply asked, how long have you lived in the borough of Bath? And for this survey overall, we had 201 respondents, so all the questions. What we did find is that there was a lot of skipped questions, particularly 20 to 24 respondents skipped questions after question 16. So there might be a number of reasons for that. Either questions were too complicated or the survey was actually too long, so it was too lengthy. The Department of Community and Economic Development helped to, actually, they're the ones that crafted the survey in its majority. The borough had added 3 questions towards the end, which is what I'll get into in a little bit. Question 1 simply asked, how long have you lived in the borough, Bath Borough? So we had a large number, 171 residents that lived here prior to July 2018, which is when we switched over from state police, from CRPD. We had over 100 people said they lived here more than 20 years. So just interesting numbers on that. 50% lived in the borough more than 20 years. Question 2 is asking, while living in Bath Borough, have you ever summoned the state police? And the way the survey kind of unrolled itself was it asked questions about Pennsylvania State Police, which is your current police provider. Then it got into the Colonial Regional Police Department, which is it was regional police from 2018 all the way through to 1995. Prior to 1995, all the way to about 1959, the borough had its own police department, the Bath Borough Police. So the Bath Borough Police carried through to about 1995 when it was dissolved and joined Colonial Regional Police, and then from 1995 to 2018, we had regional. After 2018, we went to the state police. That's how that kind of went. And then this is just asking for your experiences using suggestions to gauge your experience level. So, while living in the Bath Borough, have you ever summoned the Pennsylvania State Police? We had 115 responses to that question in question number 2. And that's important as we go through the next set of few questions. 57% of the respondents said they had summoned the state police, which interesting about this just little nugget of information is, anecdotally, I will tell you, because I am present for almost all of our public meetings, whether it be on Zoom or in person. And a lot of the people in our public meetings are saying they are not calling the state police. So it's just interesting to see that the respondents to this survey saying that they are calling the state police. In person, I can tell you a lot of them are saying they're not calling the state police, and it's for many different reasons for that. Question 3. If yes, were you pleased with the response time to your request for the service? So in question number 3, we have 117 responses, yeses to nos, 54, 63 respectively, 117. But if you go back to question 2, we had only 115 people that said that they summoned the state police for any reason. So question 4, when we look at question 4, it says, if yes, were you pleased with the level of service provided to you by the Pennsylvania State Police for your call for assistance? Here we had 60 yeses, 44 nos, 104 total respondents. This was less than the 115 people that said on question 2 that they summoned state police. So it's just interesting. And when you look at questions number 3 and you look at questions number 4, so question 3, we had 41 respondents that answered question 2, but they skipped question 3. Don't know why, it's what happened. In question 4, we had 11% of those who answered question 3, they decided to skip question 4. So it could have been some confusion, but it's noted. So question 5. I've called the Pennsylvania State Police headquarters and my service was excellent, above average, average, or poor. So in question 5, we had 159 total respondents here. But if you remember in question 2, only 115 people said that they contacted the state police. So it's just an interesting number. It's just an interesting thing to kind of point out. 159 respondents on question 5 answering about how their service was with state police. But in question 2, only 115 people said that they contacted the state police. Question 6, my overall opinion of the Pennsylvania State Police is excellent, above average, average, or poor. So in question 6, we have less respondents skip this question, meaning that those who skipped the previous questions referencing the state police responded to this question. So it could mean that their opinion might not be linked with their experiences. It's just an interesting note there. Again, just something that we look at, nothing that disqualifies anything. Looking at question 7, prior to July 1st of 2018, have you ever summoned the Colonial Regional Police for any reason? When you think about that question, you have 118 said yes, 83 said no, for a total of 201 respondents. In question 1, however, 171 people said they lived in the borough prior to 2018. Plus, it just looked, the number struck us here at the borough. 118 seems high for a number of calls to CRPD, but it could have happened. It's just something that we look at. So 59% said they called CRPD. And that very well may be true. Question 8. If yes, were you pleased with the response time to your request for service? So here we had 111 yeses to 13 nos for 124 total responses. But if you go back to question 7, only 118 people said that they contact CRPD. Question 9, if yes, were you pleased with the service provided to you by the Colonial Regional Police for your call for service? We had 109 yeses to 13 nos, 122 total responses. But again, if you go back to question 7, only 118 people said they called CRPD. Moving on to question 12. Prior to 1995, have you ever summoned the Bath Borough Police for any reason? This could be taken one way or the other, right? So 180 total responses, 22 skips. People skip this question. So we had 40 responded yes, 140 say no, for a total of 180 responses. But if you go back to question 1, 100 people lived in the borough more than 20 years. You know, you're talking 28 years ago, back through to 1995 and prior. So going to question 13, if yes, were you pleased with the response time to your request for service? We had 40 people say yes, 20 people say no, 60 total responses. Remember, in question 12, only 40 people said that they had contacted the original Bath Borough Police. Question 14, if yes, were you pleased with the service provided to you by Bath Borough Police for your call for assistance? 38 said yes, 19 said no, 57 total responses. Again, if you go back to question 12, there was only 40 people that said they contacted the Borough of Bath Police. Again, you could take this either way. I mean, it just depends on how folks interpreted the question when they read it. Question 15. I had called the Bath Borough Police headquarters and my service was... It looks like there might have been an error in here. Excellent, above average. It should have been average and then poor. But it looks like there might have been a typo. How to respond. Either way, we had 23 excellent, 14 above average, and 7 average poor, for a total of 44 responses there. When you look back at question 12, only 40 people said that they contacted the Borough Police. So moving on to question 22. Again, we're just bouncing around some of the highlights here. Okay, question 22. Overall, I am satisfied with police services in Bath Borough. And the responses were dispersed almost equally. 9% of the respondents skipped this question, but you had a fairly decent agreement between the different responses, whether or not folks were satisfied with police services in Bath. Questions 23 through 27 looked at exploring police options, either creating another full-time police department like it had prior to 1995, regionalize with CRPD, regionalize with another police department in the area, or to continue with state police services. In hindsight, what we probably should have done is we should have had question 28 prior to these questions. Question number 28 asks if the borough were to opt for a varying local police services, it would require a significant property tax increase. For example, 40 or 50% in just the first year. Would you agree with paying more property taxes? And obviously, the distribution, 29% strongly disagreed with that suggestion, while 13% strongly agreed. So if you had asked that question first, it might have made sense as you went through questions 23 through 27. There might be different responses to how folks responded to those suggestions. And as far as the cost increase for police, I would encourage folks to check out the 2024 budget discussion. There's a video that I completed not too long ago on the first round of the budget draft for 2024. I will provide a link to that video, or however this works in the YouTube world, so you can see that video. And also, we have our treasury reports, our monthly treasury reports. I would encourage you to go look at that as well, and to see where in any of that information we would be able to, kind of slate police in with our overall budget numbers and everything. So watch those, look at those documents or review those videos, and you can find out more about why there'd be a need for a tax increase. And finally, question 30. For communities such as the Borough of Bath, would you rather have the County Sheriff's Department? This was just thrown in there as a, gauging a level of interest, and 183 people responded to that question. And the majority of the opinion was either agreed or unsure. But 48% think it's a good idea. Now, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, sheriff's departments don't have the policing powers as they do in other states across the country. There's one exception. Allegheny County, they had corrected their county class code to allow the sheriff's department police powers. However, all the other counties, such as Northampton County being one of them, we don't have that legal provision in our current code. So it's interesting to have this question, but maybe more polling should take place, just generally speaking, about that idea across the Commonwealth and for counties. Make it a ballot question, right? Maybe that would help us with some of our funding issues and when it comes to police departments, local municipalities. So that's just an overview of the survey, of the raw data, and some of the things that we've been looking at while we still compile this police study for the public. We're hopeful to have that report complete through the Pennsylvania DCED by November, at which time it will be presented to the public in a public meeting. You can ask questions at that time, and then we'll also provide a link. We'll have this information. We'll have the entire report when it gets released on the borough's website, hopefully in November, hopefully definitely before the end of the year. So stay tuned for that information. Again, this is just what the survey results were at a higher level, just kind of give you full transparency, disclose to you what it is that we look at. Again, I'm not a professional surveyor by any stretch of the imagination, but we have to understand that surveys, they serve their purpose. They're a good tool. They help us to gauge temperature. It helps us to evaluate your experiences as the public, and help us to kind of set a trajectory for police services for the future. But the survey is not gospel. It's not the only thing that we have to consider. There's a lot of other things that we need to consider. Surveys are certainly not polling questions. They're not ballot box questions, right? So, and we don't have a lot of the electorate had participated with this survey. So all that said, that's the general information. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.